The reason every single deadline you set is wrong isn't that you're lazy. It's that your brain is biologically incapable of accurate prediction. We're about to show you the hidden psychological bias that sabotages your plans and the 3-step framework that can fix your schedule instantly.
Just think about that for a second. This isn't about your willpower or your work ethic. It's a predictable, hardwired flaw in how we think. Today, we're going to dissect that flaw, we'll expose the hidden bias behind it, and then give you a powerful framework for an immediate and permanent fix. So here's our game plan. We'll kick things off with the planning paradox, and then diagnose the brain's optimism bias. From there, we'll build the solution, we'll understand why it works on a deep psychological level, and I'll give you a 3-step protocol you can start using today. And we'll wrap it all up by showing you why your own history is the real key to mastering your future. Let's dive in. All right, Section 1, the planning paradox. This is all about that core conflict we all know so well, that frustrating gap between our best intentions and our actual results. You know the feeling. We create these meticulous, detailed plans, but they seem to just fall apart the second they meet reality. This isn't just bad luck. It's a predictable pattern, and we need to understand it. This is the question that haunts every high achiever. Why, after all this time and experience, do we still get it wrong? We know that past projects ran late, we know they went over budget, yet we somehow convince ourselves that this time will be different. Well, this predictable mistake actually has a name, and just recognizing it is the first step toward fixing it. It's called the planning fallacy. And the crucial thing to get here is that this is not a personal failing. It is a recognized, documented cognitive flaw. Think of it like a glitch in our mental software that affects pretty much everyone. It's that little voice in your head that says, oh, writing that report, that'll only take 2 hours. Even when you know, deep down, the last 5 reports just like it took you an entire afternoon. This bias works under the surface, sabotaging our plans before we even start. And that leads us right to the central paradox of all of this. You cannot solve an internal bias problem using the same bias tool, which is your own brain. Your intuition, that gut feeling you have about how long something will take, it's the most unreliable narrator you've got. The only way to break this cycle is to stop looking inward for the answers and start looking outward for objective, cold, hard data. So, if the planning fallacy is the symptom, what's the actual disease? Well, in Section 2, we're getting this scientific diagnosis. We're going way beyond simple time management tips here to really understand the cognitive mechanics inside your head that are causing this constant self-sabotage. The main culprit here is something called optimism bias, and funnily enough, it's a feature, not a bug, of our evolutionary wiring. This mechanism basically forces us to look at the future through an unrealistically positive lens. So when you sit down to plan a project, this bias makes you see only the smooth path, the best-case scenario where everything just flows perfectly. It actively filters out all the memories of past struggles and ignores any potential obstacles down the road. And this creates a huge disconnect. Our brain imagines this plan that's clean, efficient, like a perfect straight line. But the world we actually live and work in, it's messy. It's full of constant interruptions, bouncing between tasks, and problems that pop up out of nowhere. Our optimistic brain just refuses to budget any time for this inevitable chaos. And every single one of those interruptions in that messy reality comes with a hidden and, frankly, a shockingly high cost. You know, a quick check of your email or a quick question from a colleague feels harmless. But the science is clear. Every one of those distractions has a measurable cognitive price tag. And that cost is just staggering. Get this, 23 minutes. That's the average time it takes for your brain to fully get back into a state of deep focus after just one interruption. They call it attention residue. It's like a piece of your focus stays stuck on whatever distracted you. So that 2-minute question, it actually just costs you nearly half an hour of your best, most productive time. A few of those a day and your perfect schedule is toast. The damage from this cycle goes way beyond just being late. When we consistently fail to meet our own deadlines, it chips away at our self-efficacy, our belief in our own ability to get things done. That leads to chronic anxiety and stress because we're always playing catch-up. And professionally, it can lead to a devastating loss of credibility with our teams, our clients, and our leaders. Okay, enough about the problem. Let's pivot to the solution. The good news is this is a solvable problem. It just requires a system, a framework that bypasses your flawed intuition and forces you to be objective. So let's build it. The solution is a 3-part framework. These are the pillars that are going to support your new, reality-based planning system. First up, reference class forecasting. Second, deconstruction and buffering. And third, time boxing. Don't think of these as suggestions. Think of them as a non-negotiable prescription to cure the planning fallacy.
Pillar 1 is the direct antidote to optimism bias. Reference class forecasting is this really powerful technique where you deliberately ignore your own optimistic guess. Instead, you find a reference class of similar past projects and you use their actual outcomes, the historical data, as the foundation for your estimate. You're shifting from asking, how long do I feel this will take, to how long have things like this actually taken in the past? This right here is the single most important question you can ask in any planning session. It forces you to become a detective of your own history. Go look at your old project files, your calendar, your time tracking apps, find the real numbers. This external historical data is the anchor to reality that completely neutralizes your internal bias. Now, Pillar 2 tackles complexity and uncertainty head-on. First, we deconstruct the task. We break a huge project down into smaller, less scary components. This really helps reduce that anxiety that keeps you from starting. But the second part, this is the real game changer, adding a mandatory buffer. This is your non-negotiable safety net for that messy reality we were talking about. And this number isn't a suggestion, it's a rule. After you break down the task and add up your estimates, you must add a 50% buffer to the total. If a project looks like it'll take 10 hours, you schedule 15. I know, it feels wrong. It feels like you're padding it. But this buffer is the mathematical acknowledgement of all those interruptions, unexpected problems, and your own optimism bias. It's the tax you pay to reality, and it is absolutely non-negotiable. And our final pillar, time boxing, is what prevents that 50% buffer from just turning into wasted time. We've all experienced Parkinson's law, right? Work just magically expands to fill whatever time you give it. Well, time boxing is the antidote. By scheduling focused, intense, single-tasking sprints, you create a healthy pressure that protects both your schedule and your most valuable resource, your attention.
So now that we have the what, let's dig into the why, because understanding the psychological mechanics behind this framework is what's going to make it stick. This system works because it's engineered not just to manage your calendar, but to manage your brain's own built-in cognitive bugs.
The whole system is built on one simple, powerful principle. It creates a structured showdown right inside your own head. It basically gives your logical, planning brain the factual ammunition it needs to win the argument against your emotional, optimistic brain. It is a system for cognitive override.
Think of it like an internal battle raging in your brain. On one side, you've got the limbic system. It's ancient. It's emotional. It's the source of your optimism bias and your anxiety. And on the other side, you've got the prefrontal cortex, the logical CEO of your brain. The problem is, without hard data, that emotional feeling from the limbic system usually wins the argument. Reference class forecasting is how you arm the CEO. You're basically handing it a file full of undeniable evidence and saying, no, your feeling is wrong. Here is the data. This whole process literally starts to rewire how you approach your work. First, it overrides that pesky optimism bias with cold, hard data. Second, by breaking tasks into small steps, it reduces the anxiety that stops you from even starting. And third, and this is maybe the most important part, by consistently hitting these new, realistic deadlines, you create this powerful, positive feedback loop. You start racking up wins, which rebuilds your confidence in your ability to plan and to execute. Okay, theory is great, but it's useless without application, so let's get super pragmatic. This next section is the exact, actionable protocol you can use to implement the system immediately. This isn't for next week, this is how you put it to work today on your very next task. Here it is, your 3-step protocol. 3 clear, non-negotiable actions. Step 1, the external data check. Step 2, the buffering protocol. And step 3, time box the execution. Let's walk through each one so there's absolutely no confusion. For the very next project that lands on your desk, your first move is to completely ignore your gut feeling about the timeline. Instead, you're going to stop and perform an external data check. You will ask that critical question. What is the historical average for a task like this? Look through your own records. If you don't have any, ask a trusted colleague or a mentor. Find a real-world number to anchor your plan. All right, once you have your data-driven estimate, you apply the buffering protocol. Break that main task down into 3 to 5 major substeps. Estimate the time for each one. Add it all up. And then you do the math that feels wrong but is absolutely right. You add 50%. No negotiating, no second guessing. This is the price of reality. And finally, you protect that buffered time. You don't just have a deadline anymore. You have scheduled, non-negotiable blocks of work within that time frame. We recommend 90-minute single-tasking sprints. When the timer starts, you work only on that task. And here's a pro tip for you. Use a reverse Parkinson's rule. Commit to stopping when that timer rings. This trains your brain to use that focus time with maximum intensity.
This really just captures the entire essence of the system, doesn't it? We are so obsessed with trying to predict the future, trying to sharpen our foresight. But the real key to accurate prediction isn't looking forward into the fog, it's looking backward at the clear, hard data of your own experience.
And that brings us to our final, and honestly, our most important section. If you only take one single lesson away from this entire explainer, please let it be this one. This is the mental shift that makes everything else just click into place. So here it is, the single most important lesson. Your planning instincts are fundamentally flawed. Stop trusting them. Stop letting feelings dictate your schedule. Your history, your past performance, that is the only source of truth that you can rely on. Become a student of your own data.
Okay, it's time to move from just learning to actually doing. Right now, I want you to think, what is the next big, complex task on your to-do list? Maybe it's a report, a presentation, a project plan. Get it clear in your mind.
Here is your call to action. Take that task. Whatever your initial gut level estimate is for how long it will take, I want you to commit right now to adding the 50% buffer. Do the math. Put that new buffered deadline in your calendar. This is your first real step to breaking the cycle of the planning fallacy. So let's quickly recap this masterclass. What we've talked about today is a framework that solves the systematic problem of missed deadlines and all the anxiety that comes with them. And the reason this matters so much is that it gives you a reliable system for realistic, predictable scheduling. By using things like reference class forecasting and that 50% buffer, you're consciously using external data to override your brain's built-in optimism. And over time, that's what rebuilds your belief in your own ability to plan, to commit, and to deliver.
So just remember, productivity isn't about doing more. It's about mastering systems that make focus effortless.